Hi everyone, my name is Monique.
And I'm Naveen from Before You Play.
And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We have a publisher spotlight for you. It's been a few months since we've done our last one. I think we've done literally 2 of them.
This is third.
Yeah. So kind of in the midst of us preparing for our next few playthroughs that we'll be releasing really soon, we wanted to discuss a publisher called Ninja Star Games. So this is a local publisher that we've spoken about a couple of times in a few of our videos. They kind of specialize in finding hidden gems, I suppose. We played a few of their games, including The Majority. They published The Wolf and the Hound, and more recently, they were the ones who published Yokai Septet, which is a game that was on our recent top 10 list for the top 10 games that we are never getting rid of.
Yes, we really enjoy that game. It's a trick-taking game. Highly recommend it if you can find it.
Yes, and so this is a publisher who is local to us. Dan Kobayashi is the owner of this company, and he he always goes to our local conventions, and he's always demoing the new titles that they have out, and just the overall really nice person. So we also wanted to show you around their newest title, which is called Reputation, and this game is I think it only has 5 more days left on Kickstarter.
That's right.
So this is primarily a bidding game, or it's a bidding game, and it plays 3 to 5 players.
It's a 3 to 5 player game. Essentially, what's happening is it's in the future. We are in control of these multinational trillion-dollar corporations, and we're trying to make the most amount of money by maintaining just a slight bit of reputation. This game is designed by Kajino Kei, and it's a unique spin on basically an auction and a bidding game.
Yeah, and I believe it has about 5 more days left on Kickstarter. And so we will include a link to the Kickstarter down below in case you'd like to check it out. We'll also include a link to their website so you can kind of learn more about Ninja Star Games and what they're about and kind of see what titles they published. And that's about it.
Yep.
So without further ado, if you'd please direct your attention to the center of the table, we are all set up here for a 4-player game of Reputation.
Yes, this is a 3 to 5 player only game, so we decided let's make it symmetrical and do a 4-player game.
Nice. And so just to kind of give you the lay of the land, like Naveen was mentioning earlier, each player has their own corporation. And which is right here, actually. That also includes a power that they can kind of utilize once per game.
That kind of breaks the rules of the standard game.
Yes, and to the left here, you have your CEO. So this is the person who's running your company. So I have Natalia Aiken, who is running the Thoughtful company.
Yeah. I have Kenneth Niceath, who is running the High Side company.
Each player also has a group of meeples here, and the number of meeples that you start with depends on the player count. And these meeples we are going to be using primarily to bid.
Yes.
So in the middle here, we have cards. We have the public sector project as well as the private sector. And basically, throughout the course of the game, we're trying to win these projects. And the projects are going to earn us a certain amount of combination of reputation,
as well as credits,
which is this kind of like ball looking thing here, as well as credits, and credits are money. And so at the end of the game, the first thing that'll happen is whoever has the least amount of reputation is going to lose no matter how much money they have.
That's right, yes.
So you definitely want to have a better reputation than the person who has the least, the worst.
Yes, you want the public perception of your evil company to be second to least.
Yeah, not the most evil.
Not the most evil, but the second least evil, at least, in order to be in the running to win the game.
Yes, and amongst all of those people, whoever has the most credits at the end of the game wins. And so in general, the way that the game works is the game is played over 10 rounds. And each round, we're going to be bidding on one public sector project as well as a private sector project. And so at the start of the round, we're going to seed the public sector project with a certain amount of money, depending on what it says on the card itself.
So in this particular one, we have 10 credits.
10 credits, exactly. And then, starting with the first player, players are going to bid on either the public sector or the private sector project, or you can pass. And so if you are choosing to bid on the public sector project, you have to bid a certain number of meeples depending on what it says on the card. So in this example, if I want to try to win this card, I'm going to bid exactly 3 of them. I'll put them there. Each time a player bids on the public sector project, you must move a credit you must move any number of credits, at least
minimum of one,
from the public sector to the private sector. So maybe I'll move 2 of them over here. And then I would take this green token to show that I'm currently winning that public sector. Then, starting with the next player, they can either choose to bid on the private sector card with a minimum of 1 meeple, or they can take this card from me by bidding their 3 meeples, and then I would just take this back.
Yep, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll put 3 out here. And then I will siphon off just one credit over here into the private sector. And now I take possession of this, indicating that I am winning this bid.
Exactly. And so at the end of the day, the private sector projects are just a straight kind of auction where if I were to put one meeple there, then the person next to me has to either, has to just win by at least one more.
Correct. Yeah. So say something like this, then I get pushed back.
Exactly. And these projects are always going to have a set number of meeples that you're bidding. And so over the course of the round, more and more of these credits are going to be siphoned into the private sector so that whoever ends up winning the private sector will always get minus a certain number of reputation. These are always going to be minus, but they get credits.
Right.
So there's kind of this like trade-off that you're trying to juggle here. I also do want to note that you can never be bidding on both at the same time.
That's right.
So if I have a bid on, on here, then I cannot bid on the private sector.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of holding onto these tokens. That's to indicate who is winning in that particular one.
Yes.
What you would basically do if it came back around to you is you would be speculating or essentially passing, saying that, you know what, I'm leading in one of these sectors, I cannot bid.
Exactly. And once everyone's passed, the round ends, and whoever won the private sector project gets to take it and puts it in front of them. So in this case, it's the green player. At the end of the game, this is going to be -1 reputation. So they're going to have to be very careful about losing too much reputation or else they're just going to lose the game immediately,
That's right? Because lowest reputation is automatically eliminated. Doesn't matter how much money they have.
They also get to take all of the credits that ended up being in this area, which might be quite a lot, depending on how many people bid on that card.
Yep.
But in our example, it's just these 3 credits.
And now in this game, because this is an auction bidding game, all your credits can go face down so that nobody knows exactly how much money you have. And these private sector cards can also be turned face down so that nobody knows how much negative reputation you're working with.
Right. As for the public sector projects, these are going to go in between 2 different players because at the end of the game, both players are going to gain that much in reputation. But it's always going to be in relation to whoever won the card.
Correct.
So in this example, Naveen wins this public sector objective. And so it's going to go either in between the red and the green player or in between Naveen and I.
That's right.
And so the people who decide that are me and the green player. Basically, the 2 people who are affected.
The neighbors of me.
And the way that we do this is we are going to bid, again, based off of the meeples that we have left over. So I would go into my supply here and say, okay, I'm going to take all of my meeples into my hand. And whoever the green player is will look at each other in the eye and we'll decide secretly how many of these we're willing to bid. Because whoever wins it must place their meeples on that card.
That's right.
So you don't get to keep them. And then we reveal at the same time. So it looks like I won. And I must place my meeples on top of that card, and it gets placed in between me and Naveen. And so at the end of the game, I will gain that reputation. If there's a tie, Naveen gets to break it.
That's right. So that's why I have this token as well. At the same time that they are doing the bidding, I would have this in one of the hands. So if they were a tie, like a 3-3, I would reveal, and the neighbor to my right, in this case Monique, would be the one that breaks the tie.
Yes, exactly. That is essentially how each round of bidding works. The one thing that we did not mention yet is the fact that these meeples actually stay here. So you only have a certain number of meeples to work with when it comes to bidding. The way that you get these back is at the start of each round, each player is going to, you basically siphon 1 meeple off of each of your neighboring public sector projects, as well as 1 from your private sector project. So if we were to start the next round looking like this, I would get to take 1 of my meeples back from the left.
I'd pick 1 of mine here, and the green player would take 1 from here and place it right there.
Exactly. And so at most, you're going to be taking back is 3 meeples each round. So you really have to be cautious about how much you're going to be bidding.
Yeah, so you really have to think about, okay, how much reputation is it worth it to take? How much can I bid so that I can get as much credits as possible, but take the least amount of damage or reputation?
Right. And placing those meeples to one of these 3 slots here does not get you the meeple back. You have to wait for the start of the next round to now bring these back into your supply. So there's a bit of a holding pattern. There's only 10 rounds. So you really have to, make sure you're playing your meeples properly. In this way, you can also gain opponents' meeples because at the end of the game, you're going to gain additional reputation and credits depending on how many meeples you have available. And so if it were to look like this at the start of the next round, and the only meeples left on this public sector project are Naveen's, then I would get to siphon one of his into my holding area. It's quite political. And that's essentially how the game works. So after 10 rounds, you're going to calculate final scores depending on the public sector projects that are, to your left and right, as well as the private sector projects you've acquired throughout the game. And whoever has the least amount of reputation loses.
Out. Yep.
And then amongst the rest of the players, whoever has the most credits wins.
Also, keep in mind in this game, everybody has their own CEO that has a special power, as well as their own corporation that has their own special ability. So it kind of breaks the mold and kind of changes things up from game to game.
And just to give an example, my CEO, Natalia, my agenda says if I win a private sector project by bidding 5 or more workers, then I gain 2 reputation. And so whenever that agenda has been met, I just kind of tell everybody, and I gain the 2 reputation at the end of the game.
Yeah, and so for me, it's my agenda for Kenneth is return 3 workers in a single round. So essentially, if I had all 3 of these loaded up and I was to bring them back in, I would then get 2 reputation.
Yes, and we have those reputation tokens off here.
Yep.
So that you can accrue throughout the game. And so that is essentially how you play Reputation. Like we were mentioning earlier, this game is currently on Kickstarter, but only for about 5 more days. And so if this sounds interesting to you at all, we would highly recommend checking them out. And we'll include a link to their Kickstarter down below.
Thank you all so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please consider subscribing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.